artist friends that I have just posted on Facebook that he lost his wife, and oh my gosh, you feel so bad when you hear somebody going through something. You know, we all go through our life things, right?
Yeah.
And I don't really know him. I only know him through like what we do. But you know, when we go through life with somebody, whether it's a friend or a spouse, it does make a big difference. Our next guest has had an amazing experience with, I think it was 3 other ladies. Am I right, Robin? There was 4 ladies total?
Yes, 4.
And this took place around a kitchen table, right? They were discussing life's issues and the stuff they had to, you know, that they were dealing with, and they were like a support group for each other. And now, because of the book, it's kind of a support group for all of us, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like reading a chick flick book when I read, right? When I read this one.
Yep.
This is Not the Life I Ordered is the title of the book.
I love this book.
And one of the authors is Michaeline Christini Risley. She's a human rights activist and award-winning filmmaker. See, I want to watch her films. See, I already know it. I want to watch her films. She's the CEO of Curiosity Inc. Media, which is a children's entertainment company. And her book, again, is called This Is Not the Life I Ordered, 60 Ways to Keep Your Head Above Water When Life Keeps Dragging You Down. I don't know. I think it's marketed to women, but I'm being attracted to it already.
There you go.
Michaeline, good morning. How are you?
I am phenomenal, but I need to make a correction. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I am not the CEO of Curiosity Inc. anymore.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That was passed.
I am the CEO of Frying Pan Productions.
Flying pan?
Frying is in frying.
Oh,
like
frying pan.
Water.
Okay.
I like frying pans. I'm pretty good with them. Am I saying your first name correctly?
You did, Michaeline.
Okay, well, thank you. Where are you calling from?
And I just want to get yours down. So I always use, I forget the words you do, so I rhyme so I can remember. So Robin, Bo, Bobbin, and Larry, quite contrary. Is that right?
Yeah, except I think she's the contrary one, not me.
Robin, what do you say? Are you the contrary one?
Yes.
Are you kidding? I could say it's a nice day out. I could say it's a nice day, and she would say, "Yeah, it could be better." No, she's not that way. She's usually contrary in the positive. I say, "Boy, it's a crappy day." Yeah, but look at that. There's a little girl playing in the mud. So nice to meet you. It's already fun. It's already a fun interview. So tell me about this. This started how many years ago?
Oh, God. Let's see. Way before 2007. So, oh, wait. Are you talking about this book or the last book?
Well, the book describes 4 ladies sitting around a kitchen table.
This is not the life I ordered.
The second book in the series.
Oh, this is I see. Okay.
So we started this way before 2007 when we launched the first book, This Is Not the Life I Ordered.
Oh, this is a second book in a series.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Did not know that.
I know. I keep telling Greg Brandenburg, who I love, who's the publisher. He's head of publishing at Canary. Oh, why couldn't we have had a different name for the second book?
Okay. Well, that's kind of funny. What was his answer?
But nobody listens to me.
You do such a great job in this book, you and the other 3 ladies, about going through the different emotions that we all experience throughout our lives.
Thank you.
You see, and this is why I like to pay attention to what you have to say. Right? This is why I like chick flicks, because you get to look. Guy movies don't. Yippee-ki-yo, Mr. Falcon. That's what we get.
But you know what? Chick flicks, and being a director, chick flicks, we don't get a lot of men in there, so they don't get exposed and they don't learn about the world women live in.
You mean you don't get a lot of them in the movie theater?
Yeah.
That's probably true. And I wonder why. I mean, I have no problem going into
It's a chick flick. It's a chick flick.
But if it wasn't called a chick flick, I would call it a dialogue movie, because the movies that normally are called chick flicks have a lot of dialogue, and you get to learn something by listening to people talk.
Right.
I think.
Well,
so is that what happened?
You're absolutely right. I think the world needs it.
So is that what happened here? Who were the other three ladies? Can you name them?
Yeah, sure. So it
would
was
you name them?
Deborah Collins Stevens, who is I can't remember how many books she's wrote, but she's written, I think it's 9. You'd have to ask her. She's a prolific writer, and just a pretty amazing human being. And Jan Yanahiro, who started PM Magazine, which she was her and her team was part of PM Magazine, which is the first video show ever, right? So think about technology and how it changed, right?
Yeah, it has changed a lot,
when she did PM Magazine, it was a big deal. And then Jackie, of course, Jackie Spear, is been politically active.
And did you? Okay, obviously you knew each other. How did you get together around the kitchen table? And when after how many times did you ladies all get together? Did you realize you had a theme going on?
Well, you'd have to talk to Jan, Jackie, and Deborah about this, but I know that they were together around the kitchen table for a long, long time, and nothing ever got done.
Oh my!
Oh, you're the one who gets things done.
Well, you hear the saying, hire a busy person.
Oh, okay. So you're the busy person.
Well,
that's Robin too, by the way. She's not just contrary; she's the busy person.
No. I don't want to take credit for the book. What happened is, I was working at Sega, and at that time I was I was pretty high up at Sega, and so somehow Jackie, when she was a politician, was doing some legislation on why women had to pay more for goods. Like, why do you pay more for a shirt at the dry cleaners when it's less material? Like, why do you pay more for a haircut when it doesn't make any... So she was doing some legislation, and I was asked to testify. And so I kind of fell in love with who she was. And I wrote a note and said, she I don't know if you know this, but she had been shot 5 or 6 times at point blank range at Jonestown.
Oh my gosh.
And so think about this. She had to pretend she was under the wheel well of the plane when they came at her. And she had to pretend she was asleep, or pretend she was dead, not asleep.
Oh my gosh.
So think about that. Like, how do you not respond when somebody's shooting you? So anyways, so I was so fascinated with her that I wrote a note and said, I'd love to tell your story, right? And then what happened was she said, so I met her in her office after I wrote her a letter, and then she said, I don't want you to do my life story. It's too early. But can you come over to my house? And so that's how it started for me. And then I joined the kitchen table.
Oh, wow.
This is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I love this so far.
This is pretty amazing.
And so what kind of things were you talking about? And how could you can't one-up her. Well, you're not guys, so you don't try to one-up each other. Right?
Oh, that is so damn true. We do different things to each other, though. We do different things as women to each other.
Like what?
That's not so good. Well, I think it depends on what generation you are. I think that part of the generation that I was in, there was a queen bee mentality.
Oh, okay.
And that, so queen bee mentality, and so only one person could be in charge.
That's the same as the alpha male. That's like an alpha male thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think women had to learn how to be alpha males to survive and work.
So,
if you think about it, go ahead and keep going.
Well, I'm just curious if that's... I often wonder about that, because the whole alpha male thing is a domain thing. It's like, if you're at my house, then I'm the alpha male. If I'm at your house, guess what? You are. If unless there's a guy there, then I guess he is. I don't know, but right? It's usually your domain is where you are the king, right? If I go to the White House, like him or not, Trump's the boss, right? Mm-hmm. But if he's at my house, I'm the boss.
Oh, that's so fascinating. So I grew up with, there were 6 of us, 3 boys, 3 girls.
Uh-huh.
The boys came first, and I was Italian Catholic. Both my parents were immigrants.
Uh-huh.
So you want to talk about the king of the hill or the man of the house?
I already know where you're going, yeah.
It's like, so, the boys could do no wrong. It was kind of like, how China had that one-child rule, and little girls, babies suffered a lot, Chinese girls.
I know.
Well, so in my house, my parents loved us all, but boy, the boys were like the cat's meow. Like, they could do no wrong.
Oh my gosh.
You have something interesting in your book at the end of each narrative called WITKIT tools.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that name, and how did you incorporate that into your different scenarios that you have?
So, I think it was based on the first book. So in the first book, it was kind of, Deborah and I spent a lot of time writing that book, and Deborah really wanted to make sure that women would have a way to interact at the kitchen table. And so it was really important to add questions in so that it would, what's the word I want? It would give them a chance to have a dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even have to do it with the kitchen table group. They could do it with themselves. So that was really, really important.
Are all 4 of you similar backgrounds? I don't mean ethnicities, but I mean, are you all basically American women? Could these conversations happen if you were with, especially a woman from a country that is still, from our perspective, still way behind the times when it comes to equality?
So we are all American women with different heritage. Like Janice, Japanese American. So the short answer to your question is absolutely. This is universal. This is male and female, but it's a universal story.
You have different scenarios in your book from a real life woman. One of them was the story of surviving cancer.
Yes. Which story is that? Because we now have, this is 2 books, so there's a lot of stories.
There were 2 women. Stage 4 cancer was her name, Karen. Can't remember her name now.
Okay, and then Saren.
That's it.
Yes.
Yes.
So
that's
Saren
it.
is one of my dearest friends. One of my dearest friends. She's a pretty remarkable woman. Because if you look at her story, she refused. So she was a single mom at the time, and she gave me an incredible gift. So I was with her the weekend she was diagnosed, and it was I don't know how to explain. When you start laughing, when you start laughing and then you get to such deep pain that you start crying.
Mm.
Yeah, I know
so
that
I remember
feeling.
sitting. You do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So her and I were in New York City. It was the first weekend. The 4 of us, so Jackie, Jan, Deborah, and myself, were there. I was we were going to meet. I was introducing them to Jerry Laybourne, who at that time was head of Nickelodeon, right? And so, anyways, I got to spend some time with Saren, and it was just, probably one of the most remarkable moments of my life when we both just shared this deep, deep pain about what she was going to have to go through. So, single mom, and she was going to have her daughter. When they told her she just had to get her life in order, I was going to take her daughter, L'Oreal. And I remember the gift she gave me, too, in her house is she let me feel the cancer. So she let me feel the lump. And, as a woman, unless, and there's lots of different like, unless you've been through cancer, you don't know what it feels like. And so she had gone to the Mayo Clinic. She'd gone to all these places, I want to say for 5 years. And everyone told her nothing was wrong.
No. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. And she had the wherewithal. She came from a wealthy family, and she went all over trying to say, something's wrong with my body, and I know it. And it took them 5 years.
Oh, my gosh.
Don't quote me on exactly 5 years, but it was a long process.
Wow.
And so when it came out, it felt like this really hard pea. And again, like a green pea, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's that story, like the princess who sleeps on a pea? What is that called?
Oh, yeah, the
I
princess
think that's
and
what
the
it's called.
Pea is the story name. And she sleeps on like 20 mattresses, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so she had it, all right, she had it on her left breast. And I remember thinking, what an incredible gift she gave me, right? Because I know now what it feels like.
Wow, how long ago was that?
They basically, God. So this was book 2. I mean, that was book 1. So she had gone through that. So I don't know exactly, but let's call it at least 5 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
So she's been cancer-free for a long time.
Oh, nice. Do you know what the title is intriguing because it makes you wonder. I know this is really kind of way out there, but this is not the life I ordered. It makes you wonder if maybe before you're born, you do say to the angels and God, you say, you know what I'd like to be, and you tell them exactly what you're born to be, and say, okay, here you go, good luck. And then you get to wherever you get, right? And you have to figure out how to do everything, right? It may not happen, or maybe it does. So, yeah, if we actually do order a certain life, right?
I think you're right. I think this is my personal belief. I'm very, very spiritual. I think I have angels all around me. I mean, sometimes I can feel my parents, and they're both passed. And so I think that we come to this earth to learn. And then
Yeah, I do too.
I think we come back and we come back until, it's funny because I have, I won't spend a lot of time on it, but a new book I'm finishing up while I'm away, and it's about warriors who actually get to the point where they are completely healed, and they come back through the galaxies to help people who are going through that journey.
Is that right? Do you know, can I swap notes with you a little bit? My mom and dad are also gone, and I'm not a psychic, and I don't profess to be John Edward, but I wish I could be. Every once in a while, I will have, and I'm going to describe it like a postage stamp, so it's really small. And it's as quick as one frame in a movie, let's say. So it's like tiny little thing, and ding, ding, and then it's like, hey, that was my mother. And it's like, I can't tune into it. I wish I could, but it's almost like I'm just dialing a radio and just a micro moment. Does that happen for you, or does she stick around? Do they stick around longer?
Oh my God, does that happen to me? Can I share you a story?
Yeah.
So, 2007. So that was when we got our first book. I was also in that year thrown in prison in Zimbabwe. And when I was on the way in the truck, right? So Betty McConey, who's an activist who became a top 10 CNN hero from the movie, it was her and I and my assistant Lauren Carrera who literally they put us in the back of a truck, and they were taking us to what we thought was jail, but it ended up prison. But anyways, and I'm sitting in the truck, and I feel my dad's hand on my shoulder.
Oh, wow.
And he says, "You're going to be okay." And then my brother, who was also passed at that time, was he passed at that time? Hold on, 2007. When did 9/11 happen?
2001.
Okay, so my brother was already passed.
Your brother died on September 11th?
Right before.
Uh-huh.
we couldn't get his body back. But it's a long story. Anyway, so going back to that, so my dad put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You're going to be okay." And my damn brother, I could see him start snorting and bending over from his waist because he thought it was so damn funny that I was being arrested in Zimbabwe.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow. Wow.
yes,
Wow.
totally.
Did that, because that happened, did you find yourself not worried about the arrest?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I felt incredibly calm for the first part of it until CNN came on. So in Zimbabwe, they have CNN, and my mom was still alive. And I think that's when I lost it, is I just didn't want my mom to turn on CNN and see her daughter arrested, you know. And I just didn't want her to die, which is, you know, I think what you think about your parents. You're like, I don't want them to die, so I don't ever want anything for me to make them upset to die. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your book really encompasses the personal list from each of you four ladies. It runs the gamut of dealing with grief and loss. Some of you have been betrayed. You talk about motherhood and raising your children. Some are alone. I think it's very courageous of all four of you to give of yourselves like that so people can really read the real stuff.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. But I think that if we were all more courageous, we'd have a very different world. And by the way, everyone is capable of that courage. So we don't have anything special. I think everybody has it.
Do you know, I used to think that words were just words, but now I think that words actually have some kind of power, or maybe a better word is effect on us. And I think that word courage definitely is one of them.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
And by the way, Larry, quite contrary.
Yes. Let me think of yours. Let's see. Michaeline. Go.
Yeah, good luck with that
Go,
one.
go and get some Vaporine. Let me think. It's gonna be something.
My family calls me Mike. You could do Mike, Bo Bike.
Oh, I could do the bow thing. Yeah, I'm good at that.
What drew Rita Moreno to the book?
Wait, say it again?
What drew Rita Moreno to the book?
So you have to ask Jan. Jan has a relationship with Rita, and it's a very close one. But I want to go. Can I go back to that question?
Yes.
I didn't answer.
Yes.
What was it?
It was talk about the word courage and how words have meaning and effect.
Yes. And so not only do I think they have meaning, but I think the words we use create our life.
That's
very
that.
profound.
So,
I gotta remember that.
So I'll give you an example. Born and raised Catholic. I am incredibly spiritual, but institutionally, I don't touch the Catholic Church because I think it's the seat of evil. However, when I talk about, so for example, for me, I don't use the word hope anymore because hope is powerless for me. Hope is a beggar. So I hope things change means that I can sit back and say, you know what? I'm just waiting for hope to happen.
Oh, yeah, right. I hear that, yeah.
And I don't believe that anymore. So when I use the word trust, it's very different. So I trust the world is going to change.
I like that. I often will switch words from what people normally say, so I can't think of an example right now. I'm too stuck on a cartoon that's just going to stick with me for a while. It's Why Women Mate. It shows Why Women Mate. It shows a woman with cold feet. My feet are freezing. That's the whole reason. Robin, I'm so disappointed. I have to have a talk with God. I have to say, look, next time you make another species, could you please make us both want it the same?
Yeah. And I love the illustrations. They're wonderful in the book.
Your feet are cold.
John Grimes, who did those? John Grimes, it's such a talent. Oh, my God. So John Deborah had the relationship with John initially, and he did that for almost nothing for us. And he's so brilliant. And he and his wife, Robin, are just amazing people. But going back to that cartoon, you know what? Those flippers and being warm, that's a big part of why we made.
Oh, I'm so sad now. Okay. What a fun interview. Oh, my gosh. Fun interview.
I'm sorry, Larry, quite contrary, that if that hurts you.
Michaeline, where are you right now? Did I ask you in the beginning, where are you calling from?
I couldn't have answered that.
Why?
Until the last couple of days, but I am in Palm Springs, California right now.
Oh, nice. That's a nice area. All right, I have a copy of the book. If you would like the copy I have, call me. Not you, Michaeline. This is for the listeners. This is not the life I ordered. Call me right now if you'd like it. 622-9622. I'll pick one call at random. I did find it on Amazon. Looks like you got really good reviews, etc.
It's wonderful.
So congratulations on that. What a fun interview. Michaeline, if you're ever in Florida, we'd love to have you in the studio.
Ooh, you know what? I'm thinking about starting this new company, actually headquartering in Florida. So I'll let you know.
All right.
Nice.
All right. Thank you, Michaeline.
Thank you both very much, Robin, Larry. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Brian, and I'm a comfort keeper. I spend a few hours each week caring for seniors in their homes to lend a hand or just be there when they need me.
Being a comfort keeper is a rewarding and fulfilling career. Comfort keepers provide non-medical in-home care and companionship for seniors on a full or part-time basis.
Call 855-592-0013 to learn how to apply to the Comfort Keepers team.
Do something good for your career and for others. Be a comfort keeper. Comfort Keepers offices are independently owned and operated.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source. Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. It is a beautiful day. You live in a beautiful place if you live sitting in Ocala. Good morning. How you doing out there? Good to see you. Yeah? Good. How many of you moved here from a city that had more pollution than we have here? Probably everybody, right? Just about everybody, unless you were born and raised here, right?
Yeah, I think
this is a pretty clean place. I can remember when I first moved here, I can remember hearing a report on the radio about the air pollution levels or whatever, and I was thinking, you kidding me? There is no levels here. There are no levels here. Of course, I was wrong. There are levels, but it's all relative, right? So you hear all the time, and this is now from the book we're going to talk about. You hear all the time about how different diseases, different conditions are caused by our exposure to things in the atmosphere, things in the water, things in the food. Right? And then when you have something go wrong because of those things, you give them a medicine to undo those things. Our next guest says, well, why don't you just get out? Why don't you just get out of the area and stop eating the crappy food? David Getoff is on the phone. He's known as the Detox Professor. He's a certified clinical nutritionist, a certified traditional naturopath, a lecturer, an educator, an educational DVD producer. And I would imagine that the DVDs are sort of along the lines of the book, which is called Abundant Health in a Toxic World. David Getoff, it's an honor to have you on our show. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I am calling from El Cajon, California, which is an eastern city within the county of San Diego.
Okay, so that's pretty clean air, isn't it? I mean, you're not near L.A., right?
That's true. We're 100 miles from L.A., and so the air is definitely cleaner down here, except when the fires happen to be raging.
Oh, that's true, too. Yeah, you got that issue. Yeah, my brother lives in that, so kind of near where you are right now. So can we reverse whatever diseases are caused by toxins by simply removing the toxins?
In many cases, we can. Obviously, every single case is individual, but in many cases, we can. It's not just removing the toxins; it's also, changing the diet and bringing in the nutrients the body has not had the right quality of for a long time. So there's a number of different things. But if you don't bring the toxins out, then you're never going to get everything that you want done, and people are not addressing that part.
All right, I have a question for you, and I hope this doesn't sound like I'm a wacko, because I don't know that I believe this or not, but I've seen videos like on YouTube where they put their feet in this water and it sucks out the toxins. Is that true? Does that happen?
Actually, it doesn't suck out the toxins. One of the doctors that I really highly respect that does even more research than I do did some testing on that. He took the water and tested it. Then he took the water after he had done that on a couple of people, and the colors had totally changed, and found out that all of those color changes had come from the anodes and cathodes that were in the water, and they were not coming out of the person. However, he had so many people that he said felt benefits that he then redid his research, and he checked their urine and stool before and after, and found that although it wasn't coming into the water, it was in some way promoting a little bit of detoxification through urine and stool, not into the water. The water is all nonsense.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so do we need to do that, or are there other better ways that we can detoxify ourselves? I mean, obviously moving out of New York, I love New York, but moving out, it does seem to make a difference. I had a friend who had asthma, lived in New York, and then moved to Arizona, and it went away.
Yes, I've seen that many times. No, I mean, I would not recommend the foot baths to anybody, and that's because anytime you give somebody something that they have to do, which is going to require time, where they've got to spend 20 minutes a day sitting someplace and doing something and pouring water in, pouring salt in, it's much less likely to happen. And there are far better ways to do that, where we have different types of herbal and homeopathic supplements which will support the function of the kidneys and liver. And after we got those two organs working well enough that if we mobilize poisons out of your cells and have to be filtered by the body, they won't overload those two organs. Then we start doing that and pulling out all sorts of cellular poisons all over the body. And there's lots of stuff we've got in us from all the different exposures that nobody even thinks about.
All right, one of the things I want to ask you is, in our news last week it was in our news, our local news, our local city elected officials want to undo something that was put into place in 1940-something, which puts like a 0.7% fluoride in the drinking water or something, or 0.07%, something, a small amount of fluoride. The dentists say it helps with the teeth. A lot of people say it's toxic and you should only get fluoride as a topical thing. Can you help us with that one?
Well, the research is extremely clear. They've done many research studies, and the research has very clearly shown 100% that there is absolutely no benefit to fluoridated water. There may or may not be to some of the other methods, but there is zero to fluoridated water. There are many detriments, however.
Really?
It increases hip fractures, it reduces IQ in children, and it most definitely increases quite a number of cancers. And the EPA has testified to that effect, and yet they're still doing it.
And it sounds like it's something the whole country started doing in the 40s.
The whole country started doing it basically because a couple of industries have fluoride as a byproduct of their manufacturing, and they found that they could lie to everybody, and then instead of having to pay toxic waste disposal fees, they could put it in our water. And this has been brought out beautifully in a number of different books, Fluoride, the Aging Factor, a couple of others, and I show a whole bunch of information, including EPA scientists testifying in the course I teach every semester.
So I have a little story to tell you. I don't know if this affects or is applicable to what we're talking about, but I had forever dandruff, and forever I was using a dandruff shampoo, and I always had the itchiest head.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started getting styes on my eyelids. And I was talking to an eye doctor. He said, "You know what? Just shampoo with baby shampoo, and make sure you shampoo your eyelashes, and it should go away." Well, I did that, and the unexpected result was the itchy head went away too. So most of my adult life, I've been causing my own problem.
It's amazing how many of us are causing our own problem. With dandruff, the vast majority, and we're all different, and I understand that, but the vast majority of people with dandruff, it is caused almost 100% by their diet. And if they were to download my diet challenge from my website and eat that way for 60 days as an experiment, so many things would get better, it would amaze them.
Really? Now,
Yep.
go there for a little bit. What kind of things do you recommend that we eat or stay away from?
Well, there are three categories of food which the body either sees as sugar or rapidly turns into sugar and increase diabetes, heart disease, cancer, skin conditions, etc. And those three categories are sugars, with an S, because I don't care where the sugar is, sugars, alcohol, which the body turns into sugar in the body, and starch. And all these people out there are yelling, low-carb diet, no low-carb diet. They don't understand. Carbohydrate is a term that applies to thousands of different foods, and that doesn't have enough specificity. We want to say a low starch diet. So the starch is in the following carbohydrates. The starch is in grains, it's in beans, it's in corn, it's in potatoes and sweet potatoes and hard-skinned squash. Whereas broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, lettuce, kale, spinach, those are all equally carbohydrate, and they contain no starch. So we don't really want people on a low-carb diet. We want them on a low-starch diet.
Okay, so that sounds like bread is something we should stay away from?
Bread is something that we should stay away from. We simply no longer do enough exercise, enough walking around and tilling fields and everything to burn off that amount of sugar conversion. So if you really love bread, you find a company that makes a really good almond flour bread. CaliforniaCountryGal.com is a company I've found online. They make a bread mix, which is actually a healthy one, and that I allow my patients to eat.
Now, in the back, you do have some recipes, and I noticed that eggs are in there, and I'm an egg lover. So eggs are okay?
Eggs are okay. Really, the thing that people don't understand is everybody knows, they may not know what this means, but everybody knows that if they were to eat healthier, they would be healthier.
Right.
What they don't include is that what you're eating, it also had to have eaten healthier. Otherwise, you're eating something which isn't good for you. So eggs are fantastic
Okay.
as long as the eggs come from chickens that were pasture-raised and organic.
That would be Robin's brother's chickens.
Oh, okay, there
Robin's
you go.
brother raises chickens, and that's what we get. And you know what we noticed? Like, if you compare the color of the yolk in the ones that we get from his chickens as opposed to the ones from the grocery store, they're much rich, like a darker orange color.
A darker orange color, and they stand up in a nice, looks like you cut a bowl in half instead of being flat on top. And the white part, and I'm not sure why the hell we call it the white part, because it's the clear unless you cook it. But nonetheless, most of that sits in a little island, and only a small amount of it runs away. Whereas in the cheaper eggs, most of it runs away. It doesn't sit as an island. There's no color to the yolk. It's flat on top. So yeah, major differences.
But your book is very inspirational because of all the true-to-life stories. I mean, sometimes people can say what should be done without actually experiencing it. And you got stories from people you've interviewed, plus your own mom.
Oh yeah, no, I've got so many different patients that I've seen over the last 25 to 30 years. It's very, very easy to give examples of how this works.
You have in the book, hundreds of consumer products contain the chemicals found in the 9 participants in the study, and it has enamel sprays, epoxy enamels, battery cleaners, carpet. So some of the things that we don't ingest is what I'm getting at here. The batteries I use for my recorder, my handheld recorder, could be an issue for me, right?
Possible. Usually they're pretty well sealed, but the lead acid batteries in our cars that we work with that are allowing fumes to come out, and yeah, it's amazing. That was a study, or one of 2 studies, done by the EWG.org, which is the Environmental Working Group. It's called the Body Burden Study, and it's fascinating that they found dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of all these different poisons in every single person that they studied, and it didn't even matter if the person was an organic fanatic.
And that stretches out to cell phones and computers.
Yeah. There's almost it's not impossible to get away from stuff. I mean, my home is licensed as a business. I'm in an area. I'm on county property instead of city property, so I can actually see patients in my house. So my house is my business, and I have no Wi-Fi. I had an electrician come in and hardwire every connection. I have no cordless telephones, and the only time I ever use a cell phone is when I go out of town. Because anything which has been proven, as well as this has, to cause cancers, neurological diseases, and all sorts of other stuff, I don't need to expose myself to it. There are other ways to do things. We did it for decades.
Yeah, but what if we have a hard time giving up our phone? Is there a way to carry it so that it's not as bad? Like, should I put it in a lead container or something?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there are companies out there. The one that I've seen who I like the best, I have no association with them, is DefenderShield.com, and they make carrying cases for the phone so that it's not radiating into you, but it is accepting from outside. So there are things you can do, but of course nothing is as good as turning something off.
Well, you talk about autism in your book. And
Yes.
the best diets that we should do if we have an autistic
that's
child.
a big thing lately.
Oh, yeah, there's a major, and I did a 2-hour lecture on autism, which people can get for free on my website at davidgetoff.com. But basically, you have to pull all of the things out that may be triggering your child, and that's pasteurized dairy, it's anything with wheat or gluten in it, it's all the different sugars and starches. Basically, we're putting the kid on what some people call a paleo diet, but most people incorrectly describe that diet. But when it's described correctly, it's fairly similar to what I recommend. And then, if they don't take other triggers that they're not thinking about, for example, some of these kids will never get better if they're in a house with Wi-Fi and a cordless telephone. Every child is different, and so you have to make sure you let people know all the things that may be triggering your child so we can get rid of all of them. And then if we start seeing major differences, they can bring one or two back and see whether or not those are not a problem for that kid.
I have a question for you, and maybe this is not an area of expertise that you've studied, but do the wavelengths that we put out there, including the radio, what we're using right now, does that affect the instincts of like the migrating birds and the natural, you know what I mean? In wildlife, I mean, we may not be studying it enough, but are they being affected by all this?
From the research that I've looked at, the standard radio waves, in other words, AM and FM stations, is not causing any problem unless they're very close to one of the big transmitters. However, the microwave radiations that are used for cell phones are absolutely causing problems with the migration of birds, with the migration of butterflies, with some of the stuff going on with the entire humongous amounts of bees all dying, which is not only that, it's also Roundup, it's also a number of other different things. But yes, they are definitely causing some of the problems in some of the organisms.
And what is your feeling about the vaccinations? I mean, that's such a hot topic today, especially for young parents.
Well, the vaccination issue is fascinating because I've been studying that for over 25 years. And people that think vaccines are helping and that they're good for you and they don't cause these problems have never been willing to look at and listen to the experts, not their friend, not their neighbor, not some nut, the experts, and these are people with MDs and PhDs that have looked at all the research on the other side of the issue. And so when you only look at one side and you believe that side without looking at the other side, you get misled. Wow. So yes, from what I've looked at, vaccines are a very definite issue. I have dozens of videos from world experts on my website that people can look at, and if anybody looks at them, they go, oh my God. Two good movies that have been around for a long, long time are Autism Made in the USA and The Silent Epidemic by Gary Null, and the newer one called Vaxxed, which because of politics they just pulled off of Amazon, and you don't even find it when you search for it, but you can still buy the DVD. I recommend people look at both sides of every issue, no matter how much you believe in this side.
I agree. We've had parents in this studio of autistic children, like when there's an autistic event, and you'll have a room that may be 6 people or whatever, and they all believe that their children started showing signs of autism after they got that trio of shots, Robin? What was it called?
Measles, mumps, and rubella.
MMR, DPT, all those different ones. Yeah,
they all did. And just to talk a little bit more about that, when I brought that up to a guest who was talking about vaccines in favor of them, that guest was adamant that these people had not studied it enough, that they were just basing it on emotions. And I said, yeah, but they also told us that when they were in a room, like a convention hall, they asked how many parents believe that their children are autistic because of vaccinations. There wasn't one person out of a room full of people. I mean, a large, like a convention hall. So they can't. To me, it seems like they see the evidence. So my question about that is, it sounds like you believe you're on their side, like you believe it causes it. One of the things that they seem to be hinting at was that it was the too close in time, like the 3 shots should be separated or something.
Well, what we know is that there's a many 1,000% increase in autism ever since they increased the schedule of vaccines from the 3 or 4 that I got when I was a kid. I'm 67 to the 67 different things that the children are getting now. So that's definitely true. Would it be much better if they were all spaced out? We don't know. They refused to do the research study. Do we know exactly what's causing it? No, we don't, because it's probably both the mercury, which is still in the mercury-free vaccines. They didn't remove all of it. The aluminum that they replaced it with, which is another nerve poison, the MSG, and a whole bunch of other different things that are still in there. So it's really very, very scary. And anytime somebody has, let's say, a couple people up maybe debating it on some major news network, they are careful to never have an expert on the anti-vaccine side. And when they're asked, well, how come you got an MD, PhD from NIH and CDC on one side and a parent on the other side?
Right.
Why don't you have a similar expert on the other side?
Oh, yeah.
They lie and they say no expert would be on the other side, and that's not true. There's a handful of experts which they will never bring on, such as Louise Habakis, Sherry Tenpenny, Tim O'Shea, Gary Null. They'll never have them on the other side because they would wipe the floor with the CDC person that says vaccines are good for you.
Oh my gosh, what a great point. Do you know what I don't like when they will come back at me with, well, you haven't studied it, and while that's true, I don't tell them what I'm thinking. I'm telling what other people have said.
Exactly.
It happens all the time, though. It seems like
The best thing for you to tell them is actually you haven't studied it. And if you looked at the research studies on both sides, you would be able to find out how wrong you are.
You think people in general are less happy today? Because you hear about depression a lot.
Yes, I would say that people in general are less happy today, and I would say that the majority of the reasons are the same ones we've been talking about. They're all the wireless that's assaulting you and inflaming your body. They're improper foods, they're food residues, they're toxic substances and everything you put on and in your body. So yes, I would absolutely see that. I mean, we have so many suicides, so many people on drugs, and I love it when somebody comes to me and says, hey, my daughter or my son or the adult is on some kind of psychiatric medication. Can you get them off these? And I go, well, I'm not a doctor. I can't tell them to stop taking that drug, but I can improve their diet and their environment and bring in the nutrients they're low in so well that they won't need them anymore. And we do that all the time.
Do you have any? Again, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you have any like success stories? Somebody who made a complete turnaround because of a change in lifestyle?
Yeah. One of the first ones that comes to mind, because it was just so forceful, was a woman that called me up and said that her daughter was suicidal and had to come home from college. And some of their neighbors had been helped by me, and they wanted to know whether or not I could help her. And she had she'd refused to go on any psychiatric medication because, in her words, her 3 closest friends had all had issues at the same college, were all seeing 3 different psychiatrists, and were all on drugs. And she said, they are no longer my friends because what the drugs have turned them into, I no longer like. So I need another way to do this, and her parents found me. And in 6 months of all of the right nutrients coming in and total diet changes and a reduction in wireless, all of her emotions went back to normal, and she went back to school and was feeling fine.
Wow.
David Getoff is our guest. He's the author of a book called Abundant Health in a Toxic World. David, we're almost done, but we have a phone call coming in. Are you okay with taking phone calls?
Absolutely, be happy to.
Okay, and I apologize if there's an echo. I'm going to try to ride this to see if I can minimize it. Good morning. You're on the air with David.
Yes, David, thank you. Is it worth the extra money to buy organic food?
There is absolutely absolutely no question about that. We now have so many research studies that have shown the tremendously higher amounts of different nutrients in the organic food, and of course the the elimination of pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides. Eric Cirullini, actually Eric Cirullini. Dr. Cirullini is a professor. He's the one that did all the research on Monsanto's Roundup and made it possible for all these lawsuits that are now being won against Monsanto. So there's no question that it's better. There are even some people, not a lot, but they are definitely there, where just a 100% changeover to organic food, that by itself has made massive differences in their lives.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you for the call. All right, let me give the book away. It's called Abundant Health in a Toxic World. Call me at 622-9622. I will pick a caller at random and leave the book for whoever I pick. Let's see. I found it on Amazon. Looks like you're getting really good reviews. Do you have a different website you'd like to direct us to?
Well, Author House is the actual publisher. The only difference between the two is that I just sent in a whole bunch of little tiny minor edits, adding a comma, getting rid of a run-on sentence, and I never know how quickly Amazon switches over and sells what they have and gets the slightly newer version. It's not really Author House, of course, being the publisher, always has the new one.
And if you want to save the environment, get Kindle. It's only $3.99. Look at that.
There you go. Yeah, that's right.
David, I love the conversation. I'm sure that I'm going to be referencing you in future interviews, and I'm sure I'm going to be wishing you were here with me, because I'm not going to be able to give the argument like you can do it. Thank you for being on the show with us today.
You are very welcome. You want me back sometime? We can certainly arrange it.
Oh, that'd be awesome, yeah. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Howdy, folks. RL here for Dairy Queen Silver Springs. We want to thank Marion County for 45 years of loyalty. We love this wonderful community, so come on down to Dairy Queen Silver Springs and get some of our great food and ice cream. We have a number of great meal deals that include dessert at a better price than anyone in the industry. Our products are made fresh to order just for you. Dairy Queen Silver Springs, where we always treat you like kings and queens.
Gene Powell Pasture Mowing, 352-629-2440. In addition to our pasture mowing and tractor services, we also offer fence row spraying, stump grinding, and now rototilling. Now is the perfect time to get ready for spring. We have family owned and operated